With EV sales climbing fast across outer suburbs and fleet operators hunting more payload and range, Zeekr is about to unleash a people mover with 680 kilowatts, more than 3 times the power of the hottest Kia Carnival, and Tesla prepares Australia's biggest supercharger hub in Queensland. This is Plugged in Australia. G'day, welcome back to the podcast, episode 32 on Tuesday the 17th of March 2026, and the news is packed with some serious performance upgrades, some practical new vans, government-backed training, and massive charging expansions, all tailored for Aussie drivers and businesses. As always, we like to stick to the facts and give you lots and lots of specs and details, all the timelines and what that means for us here in Australia. So without any further ado, let's get into it. The Zeekr 009 luxury electric people mover, already on sale in Australia since late 2024 in both front-wheel drive and all-wheel drive forms, with the current Australian market dual motor variant delivering 450 kilowatts and 693 newton meters of torque for a 4.5 second 0 to 100 kilometer an hour sprint. We've got 582 kilometers of WLTP range from its 116 kilowatt hour lithium manganese cobalt battery. It's running a 400 volt architecture and it's limited to 205 kilowatts DC fast charging. It's about to get even more ridiculous power, according to a new filing with China's Ministry of Industry and Technology. The updated 009 expected to debut at the Beijing Motor Show in April 2026, with no visible exterior changes, but major underskin improvements, including a jump to 900 volt electrical architecture for significantly faster charging times. This will produce a total system output of 680 kilowatts, more than 3 times the power of the most potent Kia Carnival, and enough to make this 7-seat family hauler accelerate like a supercar, while maintaining its premium interior with plush seating for up to 7, advanced driver assistance systems, and luxurious materials already praised in Australian reviews for beating the Mercedes-Benz EQV in both sales and refinement. The Chinese market 009 currently offers up to 580 kilowatts, 810 newton meters in dual motor form, with the Australian version still on the older 400 volt system, using the same 116 hour kilowatt pack for the all-wheel drive. That has delivered 123 units here in 2025, while the brand's 7X mid-size SUV took off with just over 1,200 deliveries. The new 680 kilowatt version is expected to carry over the same battery capacity, but gain quicker charging and potentially improved real-world efficiency on Australian highways, where the current model already undercuts rivals like the Volkswagen ID Buzz GDX in straight-line performance. Zeekr, owned by Geely, which also backs Polestar, Lotus, and Volvo's EM90 version of the same vehicle, has not confirmed an Australian launch date for the 680 kilowatt update. However, the brand's growth is coming along in leaps and bounds, with the 7X nearly doubling sales of the smaller X in late 2025. This suggests importers will bring the hotter version here once homologated, giving Aussie families a true performance people mover that combines supercar acceleration with 7-seat practicality and the potential for over 600 kilometers of real-world range once the 900 volt system arrives. Compared to the Kia Carnival's petrol V6 or the Mercedes EQV's slower electric setup, this update cements the 009 as the quickest and most advanced luxury van on Australian roads with no mild hybrid distractions, delivering hard truths on charging infrastructure needs while staying fully electric and fully exciting for those who want family transport that feels like a rocket ship. Hyundai Australia is deliberately distancing its new Chinese-built Elexio medium electric SUV from its mechanical sibling, the Kia EV5, insisting the two vehicles have very different development philosophies, signature styling and local approaches, despite sharing the same 400-volt eGMP platform and 88.1 kilowatt-hour lithium iron phosphate battery that delivers a WLTP-rated 546-kilometre range for the Elexio's front-wheel drive setup with a 160 kilowatt and 310 newton meter motor. Got a 38-minute 10 to 80% DC fast charging and priced from $58,990 before on roads for the base variant, which is arriving April, maybe June, while the current elite grade sits at $59,990 drive away until the end of March before reverting back to $61,990 plus on roads. Hyundai's Chief Operating Officer Gavin Donaldson said, "We try not to focus on that sort of stuff. We try to run our own race. We have quite a signature style that we work toward in a day-to-day tuning sense. And we're confident with what we've got. It feels very Hyundai," and explicitly said, "No, we are more than happy for our cars to be how they are. We don't really want to compare ourselves against Kia. They're a sister company," when pressed on the relationship, emphasising that the Elexio benefits from early Australian input to the Ioniq 9 with local suspension and ADAS refinements delivered via over-the-air update for better ride quality on our roads. The Elexio uses a single front motor only across all variants, unlike the EV5's all-wheel drive options in higher grades that deliver up to 230 kilowatts, 408 newton meters, with ranges from 400 kilometers in the air range, which has got the 64.2 kilowatt hour battery, to 555 kilometers in the long range, and 470 to 500 kilometers in dual motor Earth and GT line models. And these are priced from $56,770 before on roads. The Elexio undercuts the Tesla Model Y rear-wheel drive by around 80 kilometers in range, while offering more spacious packaging and a single broad display interior with slim instrument cluster that feels more mainstream than Kia's style-focused cabin, with 117 units sold so far and potential to become Hyundai's top-selling EV. The strategy avoids cannibalization while giving buyers a distinct choice. The Elexio, for those wanting Hyundai's global R&D flavour with local tweaks, versus the EV5's established local suspension tuning that has already moved 4,787 units in 2025. This clear separation is a smart Australian market move in a segment crowded with your Sea Lion 7, your Zeekr 7X, and delivering real choice without BSing buyers on supposed differences. Farizon, which is Geely's commercial vehicle arm, is launching the V7e compact electric van in Australia, with delivery starting in May of 2026, after full specification and pricings were revealed in April, offering 170 kilowatt permanent magnet synchronous motor, producing 336 newton meters and an 83 kilowatt hour lithium iron phosphate battery, which is from CTL, and that will deliver you up to 376 kilometers of WLTP range in the short wheelbase low roof variant, or 355 kilometers in long wheelbase low roof, and 319 kilometers in high roof configurations, with a maximum payload of 1.3 tons and cargo volumes from 6.95 cubic meters to 11.22 cubic meters. You're going for a DC fast charging rate of 30 to 80% in around 30 minutes at 90 kilowatts with a CCS2 plug. The V7e includes a low loading height for easy tradie access, 3 times 240 volt outlets for job site power, weight monitoring technology, regenerative braking, and 5-star ANCAP safety ratings expected, positioning it directly against diesel small vans with 2-ton brake towing capacity and a curb rate of around 2.2 tonne for the base model. Australian compliance is already complete, with expressions of interest open now, giving fleet operators a true zero-emission alternative to the LDV e-Deliver or the Mercedes e-Sprinter, with a better payload than many rivals and real-world range suited to urban deliveries and overnight charging. No mild hybrids here, just full battery electric vehicle practicality that undercuts traditional vans on running costs while matching them on capability. Especially now with the price of diesel and petrol, I saw this morning coming in $2.70 a litre for diesel. Yikes. I did some very quick back of the napkin Kevin Rudd style mathematics here. So if you were driving a diesel van, it's going to be obviously more for a petrol one, which a lot of couriers are driving petrol Hiaces, and the figures on that would be worse. But on a diesel van, so like a Ford Transit, the fuel consumption is about 9.2 litres per 100 kilometres. According to some statistics, most couriers do on average 100 kilometres a day. Some obviously do more, some might do less, but on average 100 kilometres a day. So that is about 600 kilometres a week. Most of these guys are delivering on Saturdays as well. So you are looking at about $150 at the current price of diesel per week to fill up versus $14 to fill the electric van on electricity if you were getting an 8-cent overnight EV charging rate, which, you know, unless you are on a commercial property, so if you are a owner-operator, which the vast majority of couriers are, you can get that charging rate at home, and so that'll be, $14. So over the year, over $7,000 for the diesel van, and $672 for the electric one. Not to mention, these guys are using their brakes pretty hard because stop, start. You don't have to worry about that with the EV, and obviously a lot less running costs. So, you know, $7,000 a year, $14 every two. You know, you're keeping these cars for 4 years, 5 years. Now, I don't know what the price at the moment of the Farizon upcoming one is going to be. That hasn't been announced yet. So then you've got to take that into consideration. Then obviously the Hiaces are going to be worse. A Hiace does about 10 to 11 litres per 100 kilometres as opposed to the 9 for the Transit. So lots of things to consider, not to mention how much nicer it is. You don't need to let it idle to run the aircon if it's hot because it's on. Just let it run. It's no problem. You know, you don't have to worry about gassing people out or anything like that. So there's a lot of benefits to that there. So it'll be interesting to see when the prices are announced, which we will keep an eye on because that will be the big one. So if the pricing is, I assume it's going to be a little bit more expensive. However, if you work out the total cost of ownership, that's what matters at the end of the day. So we'll keep an eye on that and we can make a much more better comparison once we know what the numbers are on the buy price. Let's keep going. The 2027 BYD Atto 2, known as the Yuan Plus in China, has been filed with the Ministry of Industry and Information Technology, showing a complete overhaul including 210mm of extra length, 20mm extra width, and 60mm extra height, for dimensions totaling 4,665mm long, 1,895mm wide, 1675mm tall, and 2,770mm wheelbase. Now that now aligns it closer to a mid-size SUV and will rival things like the Kia EV5. With new remounted electric motors offering 200 kilowatts or 240 kilowatts outputs compared to the current with new remounted electric motors offering 200 to 240 kilowatts of output compared to the current 150 kilowatt front drive setup, an 800 volt architecture for up to 220 kilowatts of DC fast charging, a revised rear suspension, a larger boot plus front boot or frunk, flush door handles, we'll see how long that lasts for, slimmer headlights, full width rear light bar, two-tone paint, and either 18 or 19-inch wheels. The new model uses an updated LFP blade battery with higher energy density and quicker charging while maintaining the 7-year warranty and affordability that has made the current Atto 3 a bestseller since late 2022. Australian availability remains unclear, however the spied prototypes suggest a local launch is likely, positioning the upgraded Atto 3 against the 2026 Geely EX5, Kia EV5, the Xpeng G6, and the Leapmotor C10, with more power, space, and efficiency for Australian conditions than the existing 50 or 60.4 kilowatt-hour versions. This is no minor facelift, it's a monster step up that keeps BYD competitive without any hybrid dilution. The Commonwealth Government is investing $3 million into 2 new electric vehicle training facilities in Queensland. $1.8 million at Acacia Ridge TAFE in Brisbane and $1.2 million at the Bowl Trade Training Centre in Townsville. And this is all as part of the $50 million TAFE Training Technology Fund to upgrade workshops, laboratories and equipment for over 400 students a year learning EV technology and maintenance, including simulators for hands-on skills in batteries, charging and diagnostics. Minister for Skills and Training, Andrew Giles, said, quote, "We're expanding access to modern TAFE training facilities. Queenslanders are showing keen interest in driving our nation's take-up of renewable energy, including in electric vehicles, and having the expertise to make the most of this transition is a key part of this momentum going," end quote. While member for Moreton, Julie Ann Campbell, added it equips locals for lifelong careers in the industry alongside free TAFE and the key apprenticeship program that already leads nationally with 5,114 commencements in clean energy fields. These Sunshine State facilities directly support surging EV adoption in Queensland, where fleet and private uptake is booming, ensuring local mechanics and technicians are ready for full BEVs and EREVs without relying on overseas skills. Audi has ruled out bringing its Chinese-developed extended-range electric vehicles like the upcoming E7X large SUV to Australia for now because they are not homologated outside of China, and the brand is focused on competing in the world's most competitive market there, with global sales boss Marco Schubert stating they are not homologated for outside China. We want to compete in the Chinese market and we're evaluating that technology depending on market demand. We see the bigger demand obviously in China, where we have more range extenders. The E7X will offer both pure battery electric and EREV powertrains in China from 2027. However, Australian buyers will miss out while the brand pushes traditional hybrids and evaluates local demand amid growing Chinese EREVs like the Leap Motors C10 and upcoming B10. This leaves a gap for rivals in the luxury segment where range anxiety remains real on long Australian trips. Nissan has postponed the new generation Leaf, evolved from hatchback to SUV indefinitely due to the ultra-competitive full EV market and a strong customer preference for its e-Power hybrid systems, with outgoing Nissan Oceania manager Andrew Humberstone confirming for us at the moment the timing is not right, so it's an indefinite postponement, simply because it's such a competitive space. We see customers resonating in this e-Power space and hybrid space, and noting only 127 Aria sales in late 2025. Australia loses the planned 2026 launch, while the current Leaf remains absent from local lineup, pushing buyers towards hybrids and leaving Nissan behind rivals like BYD and Tesla in pure EV sales. I think that the translation for that is that we can't get it here at a competitive enough price to compete with BYD, to compete with Tesla, to compete with Leap Motor, Geely, all of those brands. They can't get it here cheap enough. That's just the simple truth. So I'm not sure I buy the e-Power argument there. That's a little bit I also note that Nissan has discontinued the Pathfinder and the Duke here in Australia. Neither of them available in an EV form, so not part of this podcast, but just interesting that Nissan is really slimming down their product line. The managing director, Andrew Humberstone, I believe his last day is tomorrow, possibly, in the job, and then the new bloke starts. So we'll wait and see what happens. But the same goes for the Aria in terms of price. They just struggled to get there on the price. When you look at the Aria in the higher spec, the Evolve, that car is 73 grand plus on-road costs. That's once you add in the premium paint, 73 grand plus on-road costs. You can buy a Geely EX5, the Inspire, so very similar bells and whistles, I guess you could call it. Slightly less on the range, but nothing crazy. That's $45,990. You can't compete. Like if the new Leaf was going to come in at that sort of price, forget about it. So it's probably a good thing that they didn't bother. So they've got to watch these prices. It all comes down to the price. really. It's nice to have all these other, the brand name and this and that. And sure, you could probably get an extra you could ask an extra 5 to 10,000 for the Nissan, but you can't ask $30,000 more for the Nissan. It's just not going to work. So anyway, I digress a little bit. Let us continue on. Mazda has received official Australian approval for its second EV, the 6e sedan, built in partnership with Chang'an, clearing the way for June 2026 arrivals and customer deliveries in the second half of the year. With pricing from $49,990 before on roads for the GT variant and $52,990 for the top spec Atenza. The 6e measures 4.92 metres long, weighs just a smidge over 2 tonne and rides on 19-inch wheels with 140mm ground clearance and uses a 190 kilowatt rear drive motor and 78 kilowatt hour LFP battery for up to 560 kilometres WLTP range. We've got a 15-minute 30 to 80% DC fast charging, 1500 kilo braked towing and a 14.6-inch touchscreen plus a heads-up display. This mainstream EV finally gives Mazda a proper range and price competitor to the Tesla Model 3 and BYD Seal after the fantastic short-range MX-30. What a silly car that was. With the local compliance and Mazda's signature driving dynamics, making it a genuine alternative for Australian buyers. Tesla is planning Australia's largest supercharger site with more than 25 bays in Mackay, Queensland, likely featuring the V4 stalls capable of 250 kilowatts each and open to all CCS2 vehicles, surpassing the current record holder at Goulburn with 20 stalls. This expansion adds to 148 active sites, with over 80 open to non-Tesla EVs and nearly 20 new locations added since August 2025. This is directly supporting the surge in long-distance travel and fleet charging on major routes while easing range anxiety in regional Queensland. And that's all we have for today on Tuesday the 17th of March 2026. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Hope you learned something new. Just seeing how quickly and how fast things are progressing in the electric vehicle market at the moment, especially with how everything's going base over apex in the fossil fuel industry. info@pluggedinaustralia.com.au. For those of you who are listening to this on YouTube, I would also love, especially like your feedback. I'm considering making the visuals a little bit more engaging and appealing. At the moment, you're just seeing a blank screen of my logo there. So I'm looking at putting some pictures and some AI generated images. If you think that that's something that would be appealing, again, I would love to see either comments on the videos or send me an email. So again, thank you for listening. And until the next time, stay plugged in and stay charged. Ci vediamo.